Welcome back. This is always Bruno Scopelliti writing a polyfill for the promise built-in. This is our fourth title in the series. Yes, that means that there are three videos before this one in which we have written all this code here, and I recommend you to watch those videos before watching this one. Before starting with the task for today, an errata corrige about the last video before this one. I've written this schedule function, and we have used all along this file, but I forget to require it. So let's just require this schedule that's in a schedule file. But there was also another error, that is this one in the reject function, and referencing a value. I intended to write here this value, the value of the promise. And that's all for the error in the last video. So, what we are going to do today? We have written our scheduler. It's working respecting the specification. It schedules the execution of function as microtasks. It is able to do so by using mutation observers. But mutation observers are available only in browsers. So currently our polyfill could work only in browsers. We are now going to extend our polyfill so that it is able to work also in node.js. So let's start by taking a look at our scheduler. This is not much important here, and this is not important as well. We can recognize two different environment-specific operations. Here we are bootstrapping a mutation observer. This is the setup, and later we are triggering the observer by modifying the data of the node. Let's start now by extracting this logic in a different module. Let's try to write a mutation observer strategy. I have already prepared a file, but it's empty. Let's write here a new class. Let's call this mutation observer strategy. In its constructor, it has to set up the mutation observer. So let's create a node. And let's register a new mutation observer on this node. Mutation observer require a function. It's a to-do for now, and server observe the node we have created. The callback for the observer is provided to the constructor. We have created the mutation observer. Now we have to trigger the mutation. So let's create a method trigger that should be able to reference the node. and change its data. That's it. Let's now go back to our scheduler. Let's require our mutation observer strategy. This is a spoiler, don't read. And using it to replace the code that we have written before. So this is equivalent to this code, and we can replace also the trigger by using control trigger. That's it. This code executes the same behavior of the code that we have just removed, but it's far easier to extend. And that's exactly what we are going to do right now. We have to provide different strategies for node.js or for browsers which do not support mutation observer. So let's start with node.js. In node.js, we can use process.nextTick to schedule the execution of a function as a microtask. There is also another possibility, that is setImmediate, but these appear to be buggy currently, so I do not recommend to use setImmediate in Node.js. So let's start. Process next tick strategy. Let's create a new strategy. The constructor receives the handler, and the only important bit is that this class should match the interface that we have established early when we have written the mutation observer strategy. That is, it should implement a trigger method. Process next tick. Receive as input parameter the handler that should be scheduled as microtask. So we can create here a new function, schedule next tick. That's simply called process.nextTick. This is the setup, and in the end trigger we are going to execute schedule next tick. That's it. So we are okay also for Node.js. We have to do something for browsers which do not support mutation observer. As far as I know, there is not a way to emulate the scheduling of a microtask on a browser that do not support mutation observer. So we are going to implement a better than nothing strategy. We are going to use setTimeout with the delay of 0 to schedule a task. I have already prepared a file for this better than nothing strategy. Again, we are creating a class. Let's name this better than nothing strategy. It's very similar to the process.nextTick strategy. It receives the handler and create here a new function. Let's call this schedule as soon as possible. That simply call setTimeout, passing the handler and a delay of 0 milliseconds. The trigger, just call schedule ASAP. So let's recap briefly what we have done until now. We have 3 different strategies, one that work for in browser, which support mutation of server, another for node.js, and a third for older browser, which do not support mutation of server. What's missing is now an orchestrator that, on the basis of the environment in which our polyfill is executed, choose which is the best strategy to use. This seems quite a smart things to do, but it's simple as writing a function with a couple of if inside. So let's require here the other strategy, process next tick strategy. And better than nothing strategy. So now we can write a new function, get strategy, that will return the most appropriate strategy on the basis on the execution environment. So if we are in our browser, the Windows object is not undefined, and we also ask that mutation of server is a function. If these requirements are met, we can use the mutation of the server strategy. Then let's check if the module is executed as a node.js module. In this case, process is not undefined, and process next tick should be a function. In this case, we can use the process next tick strategy. If this, in the end, if the execution reach this line, there is nothing better than the better than nothing strategy. This is not 100% spec compliant, but there is nothing better that we can do. Finally, we can use this function to determine which is the best strategy to use. And use this strategy instead that hard coding a strategy. We don't have to change the triggering because now we'll use the most appropriate method. And that's it. In this session, we have started with a scheduler based on mutation of the server that was able to work properly only in browsers. And we have extended it so that it is now able to work on Node.js, on browsers, and even on browsers which do not support mutation of servers. That's all for this session. Thanks for watching. This is I'll never learn. This is a link for the next episode that will be also the last one. And goodbye.